I think one of the key, core, fundamental components of being a creative person is being a problem solver. And what I mean by that is that almost every creative end result and product is the result of having a problem and figuring out a solution to it. And this can come in many forms. It can be for video, it can be for photo, music, audio, graphics, whatever creative thing, writing, any creative outlet, and other outlets as well, but creative particularly for this kind of stuff that I talk about on my channel. It's essential that you are a good problem solver. And there are many ways to solve problems, you know. They come in all shapes and sizes, and what's the best way? I don't know what the best way is, but there's some good places to start. You can start with Google, you can start with other people, just searching, figuring out like, what have other people done in this situation? How did they fix this problem? Because one of the best ways to learn is from others' experiences. That's why I do this on my YouTube channel, so hopefully my mistakes and my experiences can help you in some way and you can learn something from it. You can look at what I did and say, oh, I really liked what he did there and I'm going to recreate that, or you can say, oh, what he did there was terrible and I would never do that. But in either situation, you're learning from it and figuring out a way to tackle that problem in the future. I've shared a few stories on this channel about problems that I've encountered and ways that I thought were best to solve it, you know? And maybe you disagree with it. Maybe in your mind, you're like, oh, I totally would have done this differently. But at least it gets you thinking about it so you can, when you get in that situation, which hopefully you aren't in a situation where there's a problem, but as we all know, problems always arise. They're always going to be there. That you've done that mental prep work to where you know, oh, okay, here's what I need to do. You know, your first shoot you ever do, you might be like, oh, I've got the sun. How do I solve this problem of the sun being too bright? Do you flag it off? Do you diffuse it? Do you shoot somewhere else? Pick a new location? Wait for it to move? You know, all these things are options, or you might change the position of talent. You might change where the camera's at. All these different solutions and what's going to be best for that situation. And usually that just comes with experience. But it can also come from learning from other people. So I think Google is your best friend. I think if you're watching this video, you're already probably steps ahead of many other people. I'm sure you know them, the people who say they're professionals at it. They do their one thing. Maybe they're an artist or a videographer, photographer, whatever it is. But you know they're not doing the work that they should be doing in terms of researching and watching other people and what other people are doing and learning and growing. You know the people I'm talking about? It's probably not you. If you're watching this video, frankly, you're probably somebody who's actively participating and learning and growing. So that's good. Keep it up. Don't stop. And even if you watch this or other videos of mine, you might say like, oh, this guy's a moron. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Hopefully you don't say that. Hopefully you find this stuff valuable. But maybe that's your opinion of me, and that's fine. I think you should still watch stuff from morons because it's helpful in reaffirming your decisions and what you think is good or bad. So if I tell you to do something and you're like, that guy is nuts, he's crazy, I would never do that, that's still a good thing because you're still learning and you're re-solidifying your own beliefs. Or maybe it's the opposite and you see what I say and you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way, or I didn't know you could do that. Well, great, you're learning and growing. So I do this all the time. I have a blog feed in my phone. I have an RSS reader where I've just subscribed to a bunch of different blogs. And I go through it every day, once a day. And I just look through. And you know, a lot of times I don't read all the articles. I don't have time to. But every once in a while I'll see something where I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. Or what? Like that, you know, usually it's clickbait, which I'm guilty of too. Because hey, it works. People click on things that are clickbaity. And hopefully the content is good to justify their click. Hopefully. And I'll go through, you know, once a day and just look at everything that's been posted in kind of camera, news, and editing and video and all the stuff that I'm into. And I'll look through it, and usually I'm trying to learn at least one new thing a day. And that might come from the blog feed on my phone, but it also comes from working. You know, if you're not working every day, you're probably not learning as best you could because, let's face it, that's how you get some of the best experiences, is just having the experience and learning from mistakes you've made. Those are sometimes the best lessons because someone can tell you to do something, but it's a really big difference when you don't do it and it ends up ruining a project, or you have to spend an extra 10 hours fixing it because you didn't listen. You know, that's usually a better lesson and something you'll remember in the long run. Most of the best lessons I've learned have come from some of my biggest mistakes. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just hopefully don't do them on client work because that's never a good idea. It's bound to happen, but try and keep that to the personal stuff or the fun stuff on the side. Make your mistakes there so you can be really good at the client work on the other side. So back to the whole point of this, of just being a problem solver. I think that's one of the most valuable traits that a person can have in terms of figuring out creative end products. And like, maybe the problem is the budget. Like, we only have this amount of money. How are we going to make it work? Well, are we going to ask people to work for free? Are we going to make stuff? Are we going to rent gear instead of buying it? Like, what are we going to do? And figuring out that stuff is really important. And the more problems you solve, the better problem solver you become. You want problems thrown at you every single day. And if you handle them and you handle them well or not well, and you learn from the mistakes, you get better at it. Those same problems come back again, you know the answer, you know what to do, and you can handle it, and then you can deal with bigger problems and bigger problems and bigger problems, because that's where the best stuff comes from, right? The bigger the problem, the better the end result if you can figure out a solution for it. And maybe it's a problem and you're like, there is no solution for this. There's no way that this can be done. Well, then maybe you invent a reason, you go put it on Kickstarter and you make $1 million. Maybe that's what you do. That's a good way. Be your own problem solver, right? So Google and learning from others and then having your own experiences is kind of the best way to do it. And if you have problems, don't be frustrated. That's like the worst thing to do, is when there's a problem, to get frustrated, because then that puts you in a zone of like anger and just being frustrated with the situation. And usually good ideas don't come from that place. When you're upset, you're usually not doing your best thinking. So it's always nice. It's silly, but to do like a Zen moment, just woosah, just clear your mind. You're gonna have problems probably every day if you're working every day. So just anticipate that it's gonna happen and be okay when it comes, because that's the other thing, is like, you might expect a project, you have a vision for it at the beginning, right? And you want it to go a certain way so that the end result is X. And halfway through you hit a snag, you hit a problem. Most of the time, if you figure out a good solution for that problem, the end result is better than what you had initially expected. Some of the best projects I've ever worked on have come with some really high constraints and made me work in a very small window, in a very small box. And it was like, okay, this is what we have to work with. What can we do? And rather than just saying, oh, free reign to do whatever you want, oh, there's no budget, oh, there's no time constraints, like, that really isn't challenging. And without those problems, I think the creative process can suffer. So just keep that in mind. Try not to get frustrated at problems, and just know that they're going to happen. And the best thing you can do is just be a good problem solver. Take it as they come and just know that they're going to happen. Have a positive attitude about it and just get it done. Because at the end of the day, it's just about doing it. Just do it. Get it done.